Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Illini Drive. My name is Josh Pietsch, joined alongside, for the second week in a row on Tuesday, Brendyn Jones. Brendyn, how you doing?
You know I love the Tuesday show.
Yeah.
I'm here every week now.
You're here like 3 times now, 3 shows a week.
Yeah, it is my show, so I feel like whoever can't do it, I try to pick up the slack. But, you know, it is what it is. I love being here. So.
Yeah, I definitely need a little bit of a break from Gabby on here. So
You don't got to tell me that, bro. I live with her.
Oops.
But, yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's a cool Tuesday. Very cold outside.
It is.
But, yeah, we just recorded a podcast episode. I'll probably tweet about it sometime during this show. Follow me on Twitter at Brendyn_Jones. Follow Josh. Plug yourself right now.
JPeach14, baby.
JPeach14.
I couldn't be there on the podcast. Busy day,
yeah.
Unfortunately. But how'd it go? Did you have your guest on?
No. Our guest had to cancel, so we'll save that for a little bit later, a couple weeks, probably after Thanksgiving. But yeah, no, me and Gabby just recapped Rutgers. Finally got a chance to. It's been a busy 2 days, Sunday and Monday. But finally got a chance to, got that out, got our thoughts out. And then what that means for the rest of the season with Illinois, for whatever season this has been. But yeah, good times always.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you guys recapped the Rutgers game, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. So
great. I love talking about this game.
Yeah.
It's the only time probably this whole year we get to talk about a win. So.
That is very true. So, yeah, this is going to be my first time recapping. But Illinois went into Piscataway, New Jersey, and beat the Rutgers Scarlet Knights 23-20 on a James McCord field goal with about 2-3 seconds left. Rutgers didn't really have a chance. Rutgers is now 1-3. Illinois is 1-3. It's their first win of the year. Feels pretty good. Honestly, I went into the day not expecting anything out of Illinois football. You know, the first drive happened. It was 7-0 pretty fast. I was like, yeah, this is going to be the tone of the day. But honestly, the defense, in my opinion, kept a minute in the first half, played fantastic in the second half. The 3 interceptions, obviously, was wonderful. And then they drove down the field. Williams with that key pass to Casey Washington, getting them in field goal range. And James McCord came through. Even after 2 misses, he gave him the lead. So, I don't know. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was nice to see. You know how much I did not love watching the Illinois defense the first 3 weeks at all. I'm sure neither did anybody else in Illini Nation, but it was cool to watch that develop how it did, right? You said it yourself. They kept him in there in the first half. I don't think they played phenomenal. It was Rutgers offense. But they did enough so that it wasn't a blowout, so that, you know, the offensive production, which kind of came along in the second quarter and then was really there in the third quarter, was able to have something to compete for, right? And then they played just phenomenal in the last 20 minutes of the game. So at the end of the third quarter, there was an interception, and then 2 interceptions on back-to-back drives to really keep Illinois' offense going when they had kind of blew away a chance to tie or to take the lead in the game. And those 2 interceptions just really sealed it. One interception by Devon Witherspoon, the other one by Nate Hobbs.
Yep.
Devon Witherspoon was crazy. He literally one-on-one 50-50 ball, went up there and got it. Nate Hobbs off a tip drill, but Nate Hobbs says he would have picked it off anyway. I believe him.
He's a confident guy. It's not hard to believe him.
I've never been in that situation, so...
Even though we've joked about it, putting Brendyn out there because the secondary was so abysmal before Rutgers.
I'm not getting that pick. Nate Hobbs did, of course. I'm not a D1 athlete, so but it was cool to see. And then Nate Hobbs did everything he could to return that. I think he probably took it back 15 yards,
something like that. Yeah, he wanted to score, but obviously
it's hard to do.
Yep.
But then the clock management was weird. I don't know what was going on in that last minute. It was kind of bad,
yeah.
But then Isaiah Williams hit Casey Washington on like a comeback route down the sideline that put them in the 46-yard field goal range for James McCord to win it. Williams, who'd been doing everything on the ground thus far in the game, really showed that when it matters, he can still throw the ball. That was a really, really good ball to Casey Washington. Great pocket presence, great. He was very composed in that moment, and that's what you love to see. He's only a true sophomore, or not a true sophomore. He's a redshirt freshman.
Even though ESPN called him a true freshman, but we'll give him a pass.
Yeah, and I mean, look, he won Big Ten Freshman of the Week last week, and it's a good option to have. And we talked about it a little bit, that you're way more, after the game we saw from Isaiah Williams on Saturday, which that's the most we've seen him play ever. You're way more confident going into next year about your quarterback situation. Seeing two good performances, one by Karan Taylor, one by Isaiah Williams, and then even last year seeing solid performances from Matt Robinson. You're way more confident going in with those as the three players competing for the starting spot than you were even 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good game. It was a good game, but I try to temper myself. It is Rutgers.
It is Rutgers,
and they did barely win. They have a real test this week against Nebraska. I think it's their last winnable game of the season. Then they have to play Ohio State, Iowa, Northwestern, and then whatever ninth game that it lines up with the Big Ten East. So it was cool. It was cool. I'm very glad that we can come on the radio on a Tuesday and on a Monday yesterday and talk about Illinois' win, because I was so sick of for the past 3 weeks talking about how bad they were. So it's good.
It definitely does feel good. I feel like the last time I was this happy about Illinois football was the day before Wisconsin, when Gabby and I were on here, and I screamed at Illinois football to be good. Clearly, they didn't listen to me. They didn't hear me. But it was good. The quarterback thing that you were saying, I totally agree about it, and that's assuming Brandon Peters doesn't use his extra year of eligibility. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing he will not, but because of COVID, I think it's more likely now. Not too sure.
Definitely more likely because he wouldn't have had that extra year, right?
Exactly. And if he's serious about the NFL, he definitely could stay, because I can't see him getting drafted off of 3 or 4 maybe good games. We haven't seen what he's been able to do yet. But someone else I'd like to credit with a really good game, I just wrote about him, was Chase Brown. He had an awesome game.
Yeah, for real.
He ran for 131 yards, a couple of big runs, 39 was his long. He hasn't found the end zone yet, but man, he's really coming through for Illinois. We knew that there was going to be a little bit of like a two-headed monster with him and Mike Epstein, and Epstein is more of a goal line guy, but in the middle of the field, Chase Brown in multiple occasions, a lot against Purdue and then mainly against Rutgers, has been awesome. So credit him. I really liked what I saw. It creates a quarterback conversation for next week. I think, everyone thinks Lovey's going to go with Brandon Peters. Mm-hmm. I think I'm high in the minority. I think it should be Isaiah. Again, very high in the minority, and I totally understand why people would want BP. But if you're looking at the future and if we're this far into the season, I really like what Isaiah did, and I think that he can continue it.
So you're in the camp that Isaiah Williams should start?
Yes, I am.
Wow, I like it. I like it because while I do think Brandon Peters should be the starter and will be the starter, he earned that in the offseason.
He did.
I didn't like what Brandon Peters showed in Wisconsin. He didn't show me anything that he should be, the starter of this team. Granted, that's a Wisconsin defense that's really, really good. That's a Wisconsin team in general that's really, really good. Still highly ranked. Stayed ranked even though they missed two weeks in a row because of COVID things. Me and Gabby talked about this on the podcast. She asked me the question, if Brandon Peters goes out there and plays like he did against Wisconsin, how long until you put in Isaiah Williams?
A half.
That's what I told her. I said, obviously the leash isn't so tight that if he has 2 bad drives, you kind of take him out because he hasn't played in 3 weeks. But look, we talked about this, man. Lovey doesn't have a lot of options here. He doesn't have a lot of room. This is a team that he thought and we thought was going to be maybe 3-5, 4-4 to end the season, and then play that last game, try to get to a 4 or 5 win definitive. And they're not. They're sitting at 1-3 at the bottom of the Big Ten West. So that is what it is. And I think that Lovey should pull out all the stops. And if he thinks that benching Brandon Peters for Isaiah Williams will do that for him, I think that's what he should do. Isaiah Williams definitely deserves more playing time.
Yeah.
It's very hard to divvy up playing time between quarterbacks. But I think he is very, very good, and he is a wasted asset on the bench, whether that means you get him in the slot and see what you can do on some screen plays, some trick plays, or maybe, get him for some QB design runs, get him in there, whatever. But yeah, I think you bring up a great point that it's like, look, at this point, what do you have to gain with playing Brandon Peters, who's a senior, for the rest of the season, where your, max potential is, if you win out every game, is 5-3, which isn't that good, which you're not going to do because Northwestern is looking phenomenal. Ohio State is Ohio State, and Iowa still looks really good. So I don't know. I if I had the answers, I'd be coaching, but I wouldn't mind seeing Isaiah Williams at the half.
Yeah, I think here's my one thing, Brennan. Like, the coaches have talked on media availability this week a little bit about like having options to use them both. Frankly, it didn't work against Wisconsin. They tried to use them both at different times. It didn't work. Now, unlike, Karan Taylor came in when Purdue, they weren't preparing for him. He came in, he played decently well. He had 4 turnovers basically by himself, which was not good, but he threw the ball, he ran the ball, it was good. Rutgers prepared for Isaiah Williams, knew in the second half that all they were going to do was run. Isaiah Williams got better as the game went on. I know he had the fumble early. He might have had another turnover early in the second half. I'm not 100%.
No, he only had 1 fumble lost, and then he had a second fumble in the fourth quarter, which was very scary, but he recovered the ball.
So he got better, in my opinion, as the game went on. He led a game-winning drive, and like I said, when Rutgers knew what was coming in the fourth quarter, they got past him anyways. So I really like that. Did Brandon Peters earn the job? Absolutely 100%. He worked hard. He is QB1, and I appreciate that. But I just think moving forward, if you're really thinking about the future and based on the way he played against a Rutgers team, which obviously isn't phenomenal, but isn't as bad as he was or they were in previous years.
Yeah.
If Isaiah started the game, like, I wouldn't be surprised. I know a lot of people would. I'm not. Maybe I wouldn't say that I would start him. I'd probably stick to Brendyn. And obviously the leash isn't super tight, like you said. But if Brendyn if he isn't effective against Nebraska, if he doesn't put up a touchdown or 2 in the first half, I can absolutely see Isaiah going in there and finishing the game.
That'd be cool. I'd love to see it, right? I'd love to see this kind of all or nothing mentality. Somebody that gave you a great performance last week, who hadn't played really at all, unless you give him the 7 or 8 snaps he took against Wisconsin. You put him back there. You've shown how dynamic it can be, man. Chase Brown, like you talked about him a little bit. You can't say enough about him. He was really, really, really good against Rutgers. He's probably the future of your running attack. He's only a redshirt sophomore, depending on how long he stays. I think he could be a really good back. I think he could be your premier back starting next year. But yeah, sorry. It's like, what do you have to lose? You know, if you're down at the half and there's no way you win, like, what do you have to lose? But put in Isaiah Williams.
Yeah,
I love it.
I definitely agree. I mean, and then just talking about like future games, unfortunately you're right. This may be Illinois' best chance to win a game, which honestly I don't feel too good about because let's face it, like Nebraska, Scott Frost is kind of screwed up a little bit there, but they're a good team. It's on the road. Whether it's Martinez or McCaffrey's been the guy lately, but Martinez absolutely torched Illinois last year. If this is your best chance to win a game the rest of the year, it doesn't look good because, like you said, Ohio State's Ohio State. A couple weeks ago, I would have said, okay, maybe Iowa. Absolutely not. They destroyed Michigan State. They destroyed Minnesota on the road. Obviously, Northwestern is, I believe 4-0 now, correct? They beat Purdue?
Northwestern is 4-0.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Go Cats.
That's very disappointing in the state of Illinois that Northwestern's casually 4-0 and Illinois celebrating being 1-3.
Yeah, it's tough because, I mean, they haven't beat Northwestern since when? Not since I've been here. So 3 years, at least. You'd have to go back maybe even further to see that. It's tough. At least we got them in basketball.
Yeah,
we don't have them in football. We don't got nobody in football.
Haven't lost in basketball them in a while. You're right. We have no one's number except for Rutgers. Clearly in football, we do have Rutgers' number in football. I don't think it's been since 2017 that Illinois lost to them. Lovey's 4 or 5 against them.
It's good.
Yeah. No, good for Lovey. I mean, Lovey, hey, if we're talking about who needed that win, Lovey Smith is the top of the list because as you and I talked about probably right now, a week ago, 0-8 or 0-9 maybe looks a lot worse than 1-8 or 2-7.
It does.
He really did need that win. I'm happy for him. He got it. He coached well at the end of the game. I think that Lovey had a pretty good game.
I think other than that last drive, they were trying to set James McCourt up. I'm sure the fact that he had missed 2 right before then does not help that. I'm sure they were trying to figure out what's the best spot, what's the wind looking like. It was a windy day. So I kind of give them some slack because they still won the game. But it was weird. It was weird, and I'm glad for Lovey. He's a very likable guy. He's somebody that seems to do well with the culture. He's just somebody that hasn't translated into wins. And unfortunately, this game is about winning. That's what college football is about. So it'll be interesting to see what his status is at the end of the season. But you're right, 1 win or 2 wins if they can pull it off against Nebraska this week, and then even in that 9th game, if they don't win for the rest of the season, even in that 9th game, if they get a favorable matchup, maybe against Rutgers again, or maybe against Michigan State.
I hope not Penn State.
Yeah, I talked about that to Gabby. I still don't want to see. I mean, I do not want that Penn State smoke. They've lost 4 games, but 3 of them have been against pretty good opponents.
They'd smoke us. It wouldn't be close.
And they would smoke us, and I'm not That's not how I want to end the football season. So yeah, maybe you can get to 3-7 or 3-6 and turn that into, hey, like this was a COVID season. You got hit with COVID hard in the beginning of the year. Illinois did, and it is what it is. Maybe it can buy him another year. Maybe some recruits don't leave. We saw Trevor Moffitt decide to decommit this week, which was a pretty good get at the time. And I mean, Illinois isn't the greatest recruiter at all. So we'll see. We'll see what it means, but hopefully they find some rhythm and get to 3-6. Because that's really all you can hope for at this point.
Yeah, if they do find a way to sneak one out this week at Nebraska, I definitely don't think they are, but if they do, that'd be great. Or, it's a long season. We'll see, who does get hit with COVID, who doesn't. The Big Ten's been weird this season. If they can sneak one out against Iowa, miracle against Northwestern or something, there's 2 or 3 wins right there. Win your last game. So 2, 3, 4, or probably not 2, but 3 or 4 wins would end up looking pretty nice. So, yeah, no, that would be that'd be really good. Obviously, this week against Nebraska, we'll probably talk about that Wednesday or Thursday, but don't even know who's playing QB for them. So
true,
it's a far way away. All right, I think we're gonna take a little break here. When we get back, though, NBA, almost free agency, and then trade deadline. That's next on Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive. All right, a little bit of NBA.
I'm sorry. I was fading out the song, and Josh was like, man, I love Mumford & Sons.
Yeah, I do.
It's just the funniest thing, bro. I don't know.
They're good.
They're cool.
I Will Wait.
Fan. What?
I Will Wait, The Noose. They're good songs.
There's their one popular song.
I Will Wait, probably.
Yeah, it's a banger. But other than
it is a banger.
No, I'll talk to you about it later. It's something about the Oscars, but I'll talk to you about it later. Sorry. This is very off topic.
So anyways, the NBA, a little bit of drama recently, a lot of trade requests specifically from the Houston Rockets. Brendyn, you need to take a moment, my man.
I'm going to talk about it at the end of the show.
All right, that's fine.
But go ahead.
That's fine. I don't even know if I did anything weird there. Sorry to everyone. So back to the NBA. Trade deadline already heating up a little bit. Let's talk about the first big trade that happened, Brendyn. Chris Paul to the Suns.
Yeah.
I love it.
I like it too for both of the teams, right? Me and Nathan talked about this a little yesterday, right? So the Suns kind of hit their peak at the bubble. They went 8-0 and they were playing the best basketball in the seeding games. Obviously, had to go 8-0 and had to have other people lose to get them in. Some people didn't lose their games. So unfortunately, even though they were perfect, they did not make it into the bubble playoff, right? But Devin Booker was playing phenomenal. DeAndre Ayton finally hit his stride. He was suspended for 25 games at the beginning of the 2019 season and then only played like 30-ish before the season stopped. DeAndre Ayton's really good.
Yeah, he finally showed that too. I'm happy for him.
Yeah,
he finally looked like the number one pick that he can be.
Right. And then Chris Paul took this Thunder team that was not even supposed to make the playoffs to the 5th seed and even received some second and third place MVP votes, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
Something like that. Chris Paul, old, but still very useful, still very good. And I think this is a perfect situation for him, not only to be a leader type situation and teach Devin Booker how to play, make and do more than just, score. I think he can be a very valuable asset. We saw Ricky Rubio be really good, and I think Chris Paul is kind of like a supercharged Ricky Rubio. On the other side, the Thunder get a bunch of picks, and they get Kelly Oubre, who's a above average wing. They get who else do they get? They got Ricky Rubio, who can kind of fill into that role, and then SGA is still really, really good.
Yeah.
You have to assume he progressed, and then they get a lot of picks, and the Thunder have a bunch of picks from the next 4 or 5 years. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
I took a look. I'm not sure that any of those are going to be like guaranteed top 5 or anything.
Still though,
but still, maybe you can move up. You hope one of them hits. But yeah, no. Back to the trade. I do really like it for the Suns. Honestly, I'm a big D-Book guy, so I'm happy to see him get a good teammate. And like you said, they were 8-0 in the bubble, and they really hit their stride. Like it didn't seem like too much of a fluke to me. Now that Chris Paul's there, like ESPN posted a picture. They're like, are the Suns a playoff team now with Chris Paul? I think absolutely.
I think they are, especially because you have to look at other teams like Houston, who may not be what we've seen them be You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Westbrook wants out. A lot of players don't want to be there. They just traded Robert Covington for Trevor Ariza.
Yep.
Which is a great pick by the Trailblazers, I think. Russell Westbrook will get traded if anybody even wants him. James Harden wants to go to either Brooklyn or the 76ers. So that Houston team might not be a playoff team this year. So it'll be interesting to see. There'll be another spot, and the Suns were right on the bubble. So
yeah, no, I really like it. I'm happy for Chris Paul. Do I think he's going to get a championship? No. But he's in a really good spot.
I wish he would have went to Milwaukee.
I was going to say I wish he would have gone to Milwaukee or the Clippers. But let's talk. How about we talk about Milwaukee then? Milwaukee picked up not only Drew Holiday, a lot of picks for Drew Holiday, but still
was a lot of picks
still really
Holiday.
good. And then they got Bogdanovich last night too. So
one of the greatest names in the league right now.
Exactly. So you have Drew, Chris Middleton, Bogey, Giannis, and Brook Lopez as your 1 through 5. I think
It's
Milwaukee
really
finally is going to be championship level.
Drew Holiday is one of the most underrated players in the league. I think he is
on both ends.
Yeah, on both ends. He's a very, very good defender. People talk about how good of a defender he is all the time. And he can easily average 20 points a game, I think, if he really wants to. This will be a little different. I think he'll have a different role. But you looked at how successful this Bucks team was with Malcolm Brogdon, and then when they traded Malcolm Brogdon, you could really tell that their playmaking and their facilitating dropped off. That's what they're going to get with Drew Holiday. They're also going to get a really good scorer and somebody who can take the pressure off of Giannis and not have to score every time. And then they have Drew Holiday, who's I wouldn't say a great shooter, but a consistent shooter. Bogdanovich, who's a great shooter. Robin Lopez, who's a great shooter. Chris Middleton, who's a great shooter.
Brook Lopez.
Or, who did I say, Robin?
Robin.
Because Robin just opted out, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brook Lopez.
I don't know who's going to give that man more than $5 million, by the way.
Come back. I loved him in Chicago. Even if he sits on the bench. And then you have Giannis, right?
Yeah.
This team is upgraded from what they were last year. And they were, first seed last year. So I think that they are still contenders. I think that they did give up a lot of picks and they gave up a lot of assets to get Drew and Bogdan. But look, they're looking at a situation where Giannis might walk next summer, so you kind of got to go all in at this point.
Well, they did exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
I think that my guess, because this happens all the time, I bet this did actually happen, is he met with the GM and was just like, I like this guy. I like this guy. I like this guy. Chris Paul, probably one of those guys, but obviously they didn't have what it took to get Chris Paul. Bogey and Drew were probably two guys that Giannis was like, you get them, I'm here. And that's exactly what they did. If they win, which I think that they can, it's going to end up being really, really good for them.
I think that they can. I think it all also depends on the Brooklyn situation.
True. So, well, do you really think it's going to happen?
No, I don't. I think me and Nathan talked about this yesterday.
I don't even think it
doesn't make sense.
It's James Harden really wants to go to the Brooklyn Nets to team up with Kyrie and KD.
It's one of those situations where it's like it's a bunch of talent, so they're going to get a lot of wins. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be interesting in the playoffs. It's a lot of playoff experience between the three of them. But if you trade for James Harden, which you're going to have to do because he's there for 3 more years in Houston, you're going to have to trade away a lot of your depth. A lot of players that played a lot this year, right? Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, guys that when Kyrie and KD weren't playing this year, but they were still on the team, guys that kept them in the playoffs, essentially. That's a lot of talent that you can build around, and you have a pretty deep team right now. If you add James Harden, you're going to have to give away a lot of pieces. It's always the joke, like there's not enough ball to go around. That was the knock on the Warriors, and they won 2 championships in 3 years. But I think this is a definite there's not enough ball to go around.
Absolutely.
You got 3 guys who have been the number 1 on their team. Kyrie since he left to the Celtics, so 2017. KD since forever, and James Harden since he left OKC. And these are 3 guys who really thrive in isolation. So we'll see. I don't think it's a great move. I think a better move would be James Harden to Philly.
For sure.
And Nathan really sold me on this. If you trade James Harden for Ben Simmons straight up, maybe with another asset, because I think James Harden's worth a little bit more than Ben Simmons, both teams could fare out very well. They traded Robert Covington, which I didn't like. Houston should have waited just a little bit.
Great for Portland, though. Portland got a steal.
Very good for Portland. Very good for Portland. But I think Houston should have waited just a little bit. If they could have made that Ben Simmons, I think Ben Simmons could have transitioned really well into this small ball, no center offense, because He could have played center on the defensive end. He's a great defender. Robert Covington could have locked up a 4, and their offense would have been really, really good. Nathan likened it to a Giannis type situation where you have all these shooters around you, and then you just let Ben Simmons do what he does, which has never happened before.
But like, so I ask you then about the Rockets thing. Like, if they do James Harden for Ben Simmons, who's Ben Simmons there to play with? Like, why would this work so well for the Rockets if?
Well, say Eric Gordon stays,
Okay.
PJ Tucker stays, Robert Covington if he had stayed, and who am I missing? I'm missing one player on that team. I can't think of his name. Anyway, these are 3 guys that are really good 3-point shooters. And Ben Simmons has not, since Ben Simmons, I think, most successful season, or where he sparked the most was his rookie year when he had Robert Covington and I'm blanking on his name. My goodness. Anyway, Robert Covington, and they traded him to, I think he was on the Suns a little bit, but he had shooters around him. He had shooters that could also play defense. Now they have him with a lot of guys who fill up the paint, in Joel Embiid, in Al Horford, in Tobias Harris, and it doesn't really work for him, right? I think that if he's given the space where you have to respect the other 4 shooters on the team, there's not a lot of people that can defend Ben Simmons one up. I think they're really, really good. On the flip side, James Harden and Joel Embiid,
that would work.
Running the pick and roll really well. James Harden's never played with somebody that's that good in the low post.
Yeah.
James Harden can not have to score 36 a night for his team to win. It'd be great. I think it'd be great for both teams.
It would be interesting to see Ben Simmons with his own team as well, because you're right. We haven't seen that since early in his career, and I'm pretty high on Ben Simmons. So you know what? I like that. Good job. You sold me, Brendyn. I like that. I want to go back just a little bit because I didn't really get to say my thoughts on that to James Harden to the Nets, because there's 2 issues that I have with this.
Okay.
The first one, is it even possible financially?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a way that they could figure it out, but I don't think so. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
So there's my first one, and then my second one. All right, so let's first. I'm gonna take it back and talk about the Warriors team when they did this, because I love Kevin Durant. I didn't like him at the time because like he was one of my favorite players. Then he went to Golden State, and I was pretty mad at him. I've recently switched thoughts on that. I actually don't think it was as bad as we thought at the time.
Yeah.
And now I'm really big on Kevin Durant again. So Kevin Durant, he's definitely a top 4 player for me in the league when he's healthy. Mm-hmm. He should be the number 1.
Yeah.
James Harden is number 5 right behind him. If you have 2 guys that are that close together arguing for the ball, plus Kyrie, who always wants the ball, but in my eyes isn't even like on their level.
Yeah,
the chemistry is going to be very off because, going back to Golden State, which I should have done first, Steph Curry was very happy very okay with not being the number 1 guy.
Yeah.
Klay Thompson wasn't the number 1 guy before. He just wanted to shoot the ball, and he got to shoot the ball. Draymond Green, he didn't give
He's
one
the one
or
that
2.
Recruited KD.
Exactly. He was the one that recruited him. He's the one that just was like, I'm going to play the defense and be like the 4th or 5th option. Mm-hmm. You 3 go score. Klay could shoot. Curry could shoot and dribble when KD was off, and it was KD's team, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
It's one of the best teams in NBA history.
Yeah. Probably the best team in NBA history.
Hey, watch yourself.
As much as I love the Bulls, I don't think the Bulls are good.
95, 96 Bulls. But anyways, but that Nets team, like James Harden and KD, I could see sort of working together maybe, and KD and Kyrie will be fine. But Kyrie in that mix with the 3 of them, he's going to be so angry. He's going to request a trade. He's going to screw up the chemistry. We know that he's not a very good teammate. Yeah. So I'm surprised I'm still surprised him and KD, like KD agreed to go there with him.
I think it's because, so here's my theory on KD, right? When he won the MVP, KD was universally loved at OKC. There was not a single person I was like, man, I hate KD.
I know.
And then when he decided what was pretty much best for his career to go to Golden State, as much as like people look at it and say it's soft or whatever, you go to Golden State and there's 2 guys that are so lovable, in Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. They're very universally loved in the league. Steph Curry a little bit less. Klay Thompson, nobody hates him. And so Kevin Durant can't come there and be the nice guy anymore, right? Because the bad guy for OKC was Russell Westbrook. He was the dude that did all the gritty. He was that when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, he became the guy that was like, okay, I'll go get a technical. Me and Draymond will yell at players. We'll be the big bad guys, and that's cool. Like, that's whatever. So there's kind of like this identity crisis with like, what actually am I? And he got ostracized a lot, and he faced a lot in those 3 years he was on the Warriors. Not a lot of people liked him outside of Golden State.
I know. And I think he was fine with that, too.
And that's the thing. He was fine with that because he was like, you know what, I'm winning. I'm doing what I want to do for the first time in, forever. The only other player that always does what he always wants to do at that level as him is KD and Kyrie. And I think that they really built that for each other. And they were like, hey, like we get made fun of the same way, right? People say Kyrie's a bad teammate. Kyrie does this and that, and then he's a toxic person in the locker room, whatever. Said that about KD too in his last season with the Warriors, saying that he was kind of forcing his way out. I think that they kind of resonated with each other and said, let's go do our own thing together in Brooklyn, a place that has never won an NBA championship, a place that's been bad for so long. Let's go do this, build ourselves, and show everybody else. I don't know how James Harden fits in there. I've only heard that James Harden wants to go there. I don't know if KD and Kyrie want James Harden on that team. But the KD and Kyrie make sense. And I think that they could work well together. But also at that same point, I mean, they're just one locker room incident away from messing everything up. They already kind of struck me a little bit when they forced Kenny Atkinson out.
That wasn't good.
I love Kenny Atkinson. I wish he would have been the Bulls. I'm fine with Billy Donovan, but I wish he would have been the Bulls coach. And yeah, I don't know where this whole thing comes from. I think the much better move is for James Harden to go to Philly.
Same.
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, just because we're on the topic of Kyrie and KD, excuse me, they clearly talked before. Like, they signed at the same exact time. Like, they talked before. They're like, we're going to Brooklyn. They were like, let's get Kenny Atkinson out. We're both bad guys or whatever. Now let's go do this thing. But I wonder if they had the talk. Like, nothing against Kyrie. I know he's maybe the best ball handler like ever. But KD's a better player. Before Giannis broke out, it's KD and LeBron. Like, KD in my eyes 2 years ago was the best player in the league.
I still think when both of them are very healthy, we haven't seen a KD and LeBron healthy for since 2018, right? Because in 2018 LeBron's first season with the Lakers, he gets injured, right? And then KD blows out his Achilles in that finals, against the Raptors, finals. Right. So we haven't seen, and then obviously LeBron just elevated right back to him after he healed up and took that long offseason. And this is the first time we'll see KD. This might be the first time since 2017 where both of those guys are on the same level again.
And I expect KD to come back better than ever, by the way.
And we kind of push Giannis and be like, okay, like, it's still their league, right? Yeah. Even push Kawhi a little bit down, push James Harden a little bit down, be like, yo, these are still definitely the best players in the league. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I don't know about the Nets. I don't know about their situation. I still don't know with the roster that they have now. They'll be good enough to beat the Lakers. I don't know if they'll be good enough to beat the Bucks. I don't know if James Harden goes to Philly, they'll be good enough to beat Philly. But I think that James Harden isn't the right move.
I totally agree with that. I mean, as much smack as I've been talking about the chemistry between KD and Kyrie, so after both of them signed, even before this past season started, they still are my favorites to get out of the East. Now, obviously, Giannis and the Bucks making things interesting, especially with Bogey and Giroux, will make things different. But ignoring that a little bit, it's hard not to. They're still my favorites because I love that they have Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert. Those are some of my favorite guys in the league of, like, not role players, but like backup guys. So I really, really like them. They'd obviously have to give up at least 2 or 3 of those in order to get James Harden. Just wouldn't work to me. Yeah. Just wouldn't work. All right, we're going to take a short break here. When we get back, the Bears stink. That's next on Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive.
Remember when his dad was a goose?
Remember when his dad was a goose?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the Bears played on Monday Night Football last night. They wore their orange uniforms, hosted the Vikings in primetime. Kirk Cousins. Man, I had so much hope, Brendyn.
So here's the thing that's very funny about that. And this just shows how much the Bears disappoint me. me and Nathan, and I always say this, me and Nathan, but that's just what we talked about yesterday. We said, look, if you can limit Dalvin Cook to 100 yards and 1 touchdown, the Bears can win this game. Dalvin Cook had been chefing up the whole league for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
If you can limit him, you can win this game. That was based on the assumption that Kirk Cousins was going to suck. Kirk Cousins did not suck last night. Dalvin Cook only had 90-some rushing yards, no touchdown. And Kirk Cousins still torched up the Bears defense. And it's upsetting because, so Buster Screen, right? My favorite player on the defense.
Oh, really?
Not because he's the best, but because 2 things. 1,
Buster.
He's right. 1, his name is Buster. 2, because he's the least talented person on that defense, but he really, really tries hard.
Yeah.
And he makes a lot of plays. He got burnt a lot last night.
He did.
By Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Justin Jefferson, 1 being a very good up-and-coming receiver, Adam Thielen being one of the best receivers in the game. And then the offense, man. The defense did enough. Minnesota only scored 19 points. So the defense did enough. They even though Buster got burnt a couple times, the defense played well. And then the Bears just go out there and they don't even put up 13, right? They put up 6. And Cordell Patterson takes a kickoff back to the house, which
thank God for that.
That was great. Put him tied for the most kickoff returns in history, and you think he still probably has 4 or 5 years to play. So I would assume he's going to pass that. Hopefully he finishes out on the Bears.
Does that mean he's going to beat out Devin Hester?
Yeah, but that's okay as long as he does it in a Bears uniform.
All right.
Devin Hester will always be the best though.
True. He's the GOAT.
He's the GOAT. So it's just look, this is it is what it is. This is a 5-5 team because their offense is terrible. This could realistically be a 9-1 team if they had a good offense. We look at all the games that they lost. That Indianapolis game, the
Saints game they should have won.
Saints game they could have won.
Titans they could have won.
Offense, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
The offense. The defense literally did everything they could in that game. And then if David Montgomery doesn't fumble and they take it to the crib, it's a tie game, right? So, but that's it. That is what it is. That's the Bears. That's the Bears conundrum.
I know that people especially on Twitter say this all the time. So I'm sorry to be redundant, but this defense does not deserve that, or the offense does not deserve the defense that they have because that defense is so elite. It's not even funny. I know that Kirk Cousins played well or whatever. 19 points is perfect. If you can give up 19 points a game, you're golden. And the offense couldn't even give you a touchdown.
Couldn't even give you a touchdown.
Nick Foles, not good, buddy.
Yeah.
Anthony Miller, not good.
Anthony Miller's not good, except for I love him in punt return.
Oh no, I like him. But he wasn't good yesterday.
He wasn't good yesterday. Yeah, everybody on the offense, with the exception of Allen Robinson, should every game give their game checks to the defense because they don't do nothing. They don't block, they don't catch, they don't throw, they don't run, and that's really all you can do. So everybody except for Cordell Patterson and Allen Robinson, please send your game checks to everybody on the defense because they work hard.
Khalil Mack played well.
Shout out Khalil Mack, man. What an interception.
That was awesome.
Stripped it.
When you come to the ball, good things happen.
Kind of just attached to his chest. Shout out Khalil Mack.
He's awesome. Hey, you know who else we should shout out? Roquan Smith.
Man,
that dude's a stud.
He's turning into the best middle linebacker in the league.
I know.
And I love it.
I know.
If he gets he's elite in run stoppage already. He's pretty good pursuing the quarterback. He's pretty good at I think he leads the linebackers or is in second linebackers in pass deflection.
Sure he does.
If he can start intercepting the ball, he might be the best middle linebacker in the league.
He really might be.
It's only his 3rd year.
Could the Bears have 2 of the top 6 best players in the league by the end of the year on defense?
And still not make the playoffs?
And still not make the playoffs. They're not making the playoffs.
I think in position group they have, I would say Kyle Fuller's a top 10 cornerback. I would say Jalen Johnson's a top 15. I'd say Khalil Mack's top 3 pass rusher. Eddie Jackson's a top 5 safety, and Roquan Smith. They have top of the line in each position group across the defense. It's just their offense is literally comparable to the Jets.
They got a good punter. They have a good kicker.
Yeah,
they have a good defense.
It's all offense.
Man, Allen Robinson's definitely leaving. I don't even think he wants an extension. I would just get out if I were him.
Point. He's very frustrated. It's very frustrating because I love Allen Robinson, but if he's going to walk for nothing, you might as well trade him for an offensive lineman or 2 or some picks or something because you work it out and now the trade deadline's, you try to work it out. The trade deadline's passed. You're worse than you were before the trade deadline. He doesn't want to play for a bad quarterback, right? This is the prime of his career. On a good team with another receiving option where he can really work the field, he could be a top 7 consistent receiver.
Yeah.
And he's just not that production-wise. Talent-wise, he is. Production-wise, he's not. It's because he has a bad offense.
I agree. You know, something I was thinking about, obviously Nick Foles is down. I expect Mitch Trubisky to start next week, which I'm not excited about.
They have bye.
Yeah, 2 weeks. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I think it'll be Mitch.
If the Jets take Trevor Lawrence, go get Sam Darnold.
Think so?
I like Sam Darnold.
I like him
Sam
too.
Darnold's not the problem. He's good. If he can have time to throw and he has any receivers, like I like Sam Darnold.
But the thing is, you're not going to have any receivers or time to throw next year.
All right. Unless we take like a first round pick on an offensive lineman.
Yeah,
second round pick on another receiver.
No, I think you take your first 2 picks, offensive linemen, then you start trying to get receivers. You're going to have Darnell Mooney, who I think will be
the
really
receivers
good.
are going to be okay.
They're going to be okay. They're just not going to be good if Allen Robinson leaves.
Yeah. And then Cole Kmet, obviously, another year.
Yeah.
That'll be good. Hey, you know, at least the future isn't terrible. But this season, I am not expecting them to win more than another 2 games because this team is bad.
For real.
All right, Brendyn, would you like to give your explanation as to why you were laughing so hard before we close things up here?
Yeah, so I was laughing because a while back I was thinking about, like, sometimes movies are just so good, but they don't win Oscars. Like Kung Fu Panda, I think deserves an Oscar. I think it's a phenomenal movie. But it didn't win the Oscar for Best Feature Film that's animated because it was up against WALL-E.
Can't
beat WALL-E, right? And then I was thinking, like, man, like, Surf's Up, phenomenal movie, makes me laugh all the time. Shia LaBeouf is really good. Great story, like, very original story. Didn't win because it's up against Ratatouille, one of the best animated films of all time. It's just not fair, you know? Sometimes, like if you make a movie that's that good, like, what do you do in that situation when 2 weeks later somebody drops a Ratatouille and you're just like, man, I'm not going to win no awards, huh? Because their soundtrack's better, their story's better, their animation's better, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's just very sad. I think that Kung Fu Panda deserves the Oscar just as much as WALL-E does. And I think that there should be multiple Oscars given out to animated movies.
And for some reason, me saying that I like Mumford Sons triggered that for Brendyn, and then he couldn't stop laughing for the first minute when we came back from break.
And then when we came back from our second break, I was laughing because Josh was reminiscing about Kung Fu Panda, and you're like, remember when his dad was just a goose? Yeah, and
his dad was a goose.
It was very, very funny. It's a great movie. See,
that is
makes
a really
you laugh
good movie.
Every time.
I agree with you. I like
Shout
it.
out Kung Fu Panda.
Shout out Kung Fu Panda. All right, we're gonna end things a little early here today. Brendyn, I like you on the Tuesday show.
We have so much fun.
We do. We have so much fun.
I love the Tuesday show.
All right, that's gonna do it for tonight. From Brendyn and Josh, this has been Illini Drive.